Welcome to video number 11 in our Deliverance Ministry seminar. In this video, we're going to be discussing how to pray prayers to break strongholds in an individual's lives. But before we do that, we want to let you know that demonic manifestations can occur at any time through the process for a person's deliverance. Even when we have gone to the very first interview with a person, we haven't encountered individuals that began to manifest demons. We didn't do anything to initiate it. It's just that these demons knew that we were taking steps in that direction. They knew that their territory was being infringed upon, and then an occurrences began to take place right there. If you would turn to page 123 in your manual, you'll notice it says the heading on page 123 is manifestations. At the very top it says a demon manifesting is certainly scriptural. In Luke 9:39, the father of a boy with an evil spirit states, "A spirit seizes him, and he suddenly screams and throws him into convulsions so that he foams at the mouth." So it is biblical. There is biblical precedent for demonic manifestations to take place. Going to the second paragraph on page 123, it says, "We have seen violent manifestations. But the most common manifestations are shaking, choking, gagging, crying, growling, curses, people going into trances or distorted voices. When strongholds are broken, people often burp, they yawn, they cough, they spit, they cry, or they vomit. And so this Greek word for spirit is pneuma, and that word, it also means breath, and most spirits leave via the mouth. So we're not going to look in any detail right now at these possible manifestations that you may see. We just want you to be familiar with them. They do not need to scare you or intimidate you, but we do want you to be prepared and to know that it is common for them to happen. Now we want you to turn back to page 60 actually. Page 60 in the steps for the deliverance session. We're going step by step through page 60 and 61 because what page 60 and 61 is our template for conducting a deliverance session. And so what we have done, we started on number 5 in the middle of page 60. We've discussed have the person pray forgiveness prayer, soul tie prayer, break generational curses, and now we're on the 4th bullet point on number 5, break all strongholds that are applicable. And that's what we're going to be looking at in this video. And just like in how we break generational curses in the previous video, I prefer to use a PowerPoint to explain the process. It's just a lot easier to grasp hold of. So we come over here, we look at the stronghold prayers. And so what we do, we make sure the person understands that renunciation means to give up, refuse, resign, usually by a formal declaration. So the person makes a declaration that they are set free, that Jesus Christ has the power to set them free. To refuse to follow, obey, or recognize any further, they're going to be free from it. To renounce a claim, to repudiate, or to disown. So that is what renunciation is. So what we do, let's say when we look at the person's questionnaire, that is how we determine which one of the strongholds we want to focus on. Most people will have anywhere from 6 to 8 or so strongholds that we want to focus in on. And we determine all of that through their questionnaire. So let's say they have the stronghold of Antichrist. So what we do, we pull this up. Whether it's on the PowerPoint or it's on the paper, and we have them read this. In Jesus' name, I renounce the stronghold of Antichrist and every spirit of Antichrist and the manifestation and fruit. And then we have categories. There's 16 of these categories. The first one is the spirit of Antichrist. And then we have them pray, I renounce any spirit that denies the deity of Jesus, that denies the atonement, that come against Christ and his teachings, that suppresses ministries. I renounce secular humanism, worldly speech and actions. I renounce profanity, anything anti-Christian. I renounce lawlessness and rebellion, the accuser, the deceiver, anger toward God, any serpent spirit, any style of ungodly music. I renounce legalism, rituals, idolatry, religious spirit. And then it continues on the next slide. It says, I renounce teachers of heresy, Scientology, Mormonism, Catholicism, Unitarianism, Buddhism, Hinduism, New Age, Freemasonry, Islam, or a familiar spirit of Antichrist. And so that will conclude the first category out of the 16 categories. And then we go to the second one, which is the stronghold of bondage. And we do the exact same thing. So I'm going to take you through this second one for this training. We have them pray, in Jesus' name, I renounce the stronghold of bondage and its manifestations and fruit. And then we go to the listing and the categories. I renounce bondage to fear, bondage to all addictions, drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, food, sex, pornography, masturbation, computers and internet, TV, movies, video games, shopping and gambling. I renounce bondage to lust or perversion, bondage to sin, compulsive behavior, compulsive to sin, religious tradition, idolatry, bondage to ambition and achievement. I renounce bondage to bitterness and unforgiveness, bondage to oppression, spiritual blindness and deafness, fear of death, spiritual control, insecurity, accusations, injustice, familiar spirit of bondage. Now, I read through these really fast, and what we want the individual to do is read through them and keeping in mind that they are actually making a renunciation. They're making a complete break with anything that is afflicting them, that is keeping them in bondage. And they're believing that Jesus' power is setting them free. And then we would go to the next particular area. If it was a deaf and dumb spirit, we do the same thing. Or if it's a stronghold of death, maybe they are suicidal. There could be any of these things. Then the spirit of divination, maybe they were involved in divination. So we would just go through each category. Now, like I said, which strongholds do you choose to take a person through is based on their questionnaire. Now, I want you to go back to your paper. You don't, because their paper is also going to teach the exact same thing. On page 72 at the top, you see that same slide that I had used a little bit ago where it says renunciation. We want them to understand that when they use the word I renounce, that that number 1 there on page 72 underneath the heading renunciation, it says to give up, refuse, resign, usually by a formal declaration. So they are making a declaration that by the power of Jesus, they are free from that particular stronghold. And so what I did on that PowerPoint is the exact same thing that is in the middle of page 72 where it says examples how to pray, which is the stronghold of Antichrist. And I have already showed you that. And then also I showed you the exact same thing on page 73 where it says the stronghold of bondage. And I showed you how to pray those prayers. And then the stronghold of fear or any of the other. And there's 16 of those categories. So that is how we lead the person through breaking strongholds in their life. So that is the fourth bullet point on number 5 that we find on page number 60 in the steps in the deliverance session. So this is the end of video number 11. And at the beginning of video number 12, we're going to look at prayers of release. Going back to page 60, that is the final bullet point on number 5 on page 60. We're going to show how to pray the prayers of release at the beginning of our next video.